So it is Oracle SQL Basics, not
Sorry.
about the TOSCA or manual. Not notes available in that website, right? That is Oracle SQL Basics. That they uploaded this document.
Um, they gave the access, right,
Yeah, we have
for
the
the document.
access. The notes they uploaded, no, that is not related to this topic. Something different topic. That is SQL Basic. They uploaded the notes.
SQL basics.
Yes.
No, that is not related to my documents actually. So my documents is that I show you, right?
Yes.
So wait. This PPT and all I have shared with e-tech. So
Yeah.
they didn't share with you?
They didn't share.
No?
No,
Mm.
they didn't share.
Okay, I'll inform them. Mhm. Is that- Mm. So today we'll discuss about SDLC. So SDLC means SDLC means software development lifecycle. Okay, it is the full form of SDLC. So I'll show you one picture. This is the phases of SDLC. Okay, there are five phases. One is requirement analysis, and one is design. So third one is development and testing, and last one is maintenance. So SDLC is the step-by-step process which we are following to complete the software project. Okay, that includes both the development and testing. So after completion of development activities, we can't say that we completed the project. So we can say that we completed the project only after completion of both the development and testing activities. So for completion of every activity or work, so we have to follow some process. So in the same way, for the completion of software project, also we have to follow some process, and this process is called as SDLC. Okay, and to see there are there are different phases in SDLC. So requirements and second one is analysis, design, development, testing, maintenance, release and maintenance. So requirement, what is the meaning of requirement? So last class we already discussed about the requirements and they using some techniques. Do you have any idea? So I'll show one note. Did you remember?
Yes, sir. So BA will collect the requirements from the client, right? And they'll prepare the
Yes.
document. We'll get the information in BRS and FRS documents.
Yeah, of course. Correct. So in this phase, so all the relevant information is collected from the customer to develop a product as per their expectations. So here, product owner or business analyst or a project manager will set up a meeting with the customer to gather all the information. So it means, so this is the first phase in SDLC. Okay, once the project has been confirmed between client and company, so client will directly provide some requirements to company. Okay, And what happened? The company will collect requirements from the client. So for collecting requirements, uh, VA team is following some techniques like KT, questionnaires, inspection. So what is the meaning of knowledge transfer? So in this technique, team will collect the requirements by requesting the client to transfer the information of the business. And what about the questionnaires? So team will collect requirement by asking some questions to the client about client business. And what is inspection? So they will collect the requirements directly by step into client business and observe how the client is doing the business manually. And what about analysis? Here requirement is done. But what about analysis? So in this phase, team will be involving to analyze the collected requirements and they will designing the understandable form of requirements, requirement documents. So what is that documents? BRS document, FRS document, SRS documents. Okay. And last class we already discussed BRS document. What is BRS? What is FRS and what is SRS documents? And how they are getting the requirements in your project. So by using SharePoint or and shareholder. So did you remember guys? You got it right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Mm. So in between that, there is one phase is there project planning. Okay. There is a kind of analysis also. So once the requirements are clear, then the planning phase will start. Okay. So while planning any project, okay. So 5 points will be considered. So how much cost to develop a project, project efficiency, how much impact on the customer, so business success, so preparing for the future. So either profit or loss. These 5 points are considered before some start doing any designing. So before that, they need to analysis of project planning. And after that, one second phase is what is that project designing. So in this phase, the architecture break down the system into pieces that can be programmed and they will specify the specifications for the system that serve as input to the next phase. So what I'm saying in this phase, technical lead or a system architect will be involving to design the architecture of the project or blueprint or skeleton of the project. So these are two different types of design available in this phase. Okay, what is that? HLD and LLD, and we will discuss more detailed in upcoming session. But I'll tell you a very brief. Okay, HLD means high level design. LLD means low level design. So LLD HLD means it defines the overall architecture of the project that includes all modules. For example, if you take one application, for example, Amazon, there is a categories like clothes, shoes, and there are number of accessories. There are number of categories, right? One module is the a low level design. One module considered as a LLD. But overall application. So the package of modules, okay, the number of if you take 10 modules and 10 modules considered as one application, so that called be as HLD. So HLD, what is the difference between HLD and LLD means? So overall architecture of the product that called HLD. And in LLD means so in overall architecture of the individual that includes all the submodules and screens. See, in every project there is one HLD and multiple LLDs. That depends on the number of modules in the project. So in most of the project, we are using like a unified modeling language for designing the architecture of the project. So that is the meaning of design. But we'll discuss very detailed in HLD, LLD in further session. And next, what is that? Development. Development is nothing but coding. Coding means during this phase, developing team will be involving to write the coding for the functionality of the individual modules. So after successfully completion of writing coding For individual modules, they are performing reviews. So reviews means there are number of reviews. Like it is the process to verify the completeness and correctness of the task. So as per the capability maturity model, so level 5 company standards, we need to perform at least 4 different reviews in a project, like peer review, lead review, on-site coordinator review, client review. So peer means who is working in your project. I mean your colleagues. So that we called as peer. So lead review, obviously our lead, and on-site coordinator, client review. So peer review means what is that? It is nothing but colleagues review. So this is the first review in this review process. So during this review, we will interchange the task, okay, among the team members and perform reviews based on the review comments, okay, and we will update the task and sending the updates to the lead. And lead review means, so in this, team lead will be involving to perform review with the team members, okay, based on the review comments of the team, and sending the task to the on-site coordinator review. An on-site coordinator review means, see, this on-site coordinator will be involved and perform review on the project member task based on the review comments. And see, there are on-site or onshore coordinator. I think you heard right. So that is another review. And client review means, see, client side technical team will be involving to perform review on the project members. So client will be sign off, okay, the coding phase. So in next phase, what is that? Testing. In this phase, testing team will be involving to perform testing on the application by executing the test cases. So testing team performing the different types of testings like sanity testing, usability testing, functional testing, security testing, performance testing, and so on. So after successfully completion of execution of test cases, so when all the defects are closed, development team will deploy the application into production team. Okay. So it means the tester has to understand the requirements by referring different projects such as BRT documents, FRT documents, FRS. So and supposed to find the scenarios. So based on scenarios, testers has to write the test cases and written test cases has to be executed in the test environment. So this is the these activities all do in testing phase. And implementation. Implementation, I mean, release and maintenance. So in this phase, both development and testing team will be involving to provide support to the client while using the application in the production environment. When client or end user is using the application in the production environment, we need to provide the support to the client for using application. Okay. So once the testing is done, okay, we are going to release the product to the customer. In this phase, the customer will perform UAT testing. UAT means user acceptance testing. So it is done in production environment. And once the product is released, if customer face any problem that need to be solved time to time is called as maintenance. Okay. Is it clear? All phases?
It's clear.
So this is the explanation
Yes.
of SDLC, but there are number of SDLC models. First model we will discuss about waterfall model. This is first model of this SDLC. See, we have understood SDLC phases, right? It's a software development lifecycle. Okay, so it is a step-by-step process which we have to follow to deliver the quality product to the customer. Now, by using SDLC, the companies design their own models, or we can say process models. So, among them, the first and important model is waterfall model. Okay, and this is very old and traditional model. So, when software industry started, the first and initial model started with the waterfall model. So it is a very, very old and traditional model. So it is also called linear model. Okay, waterfall model is also known as linear model. So if I just look at that picture, it seems like waterfall model. Did you see that? This arrow. Did you observe it?
Yes, yes.
Uh, to the one. See, it seems like waterfall. Now, okay, right? See, the flow will be go down like this. That's the reason we can say this is simple waterfall model. Now let us understand what is this model, okay? And how the software development will happen in this particular model. So, and also we will discuss advantages and disadvantages of this particular model. So it is very important for interview question. So even though we are not following these models in the companies, we should understand these models. This waterfall model, very rare cases uses in company in IT company. But what are the drawbacks in this model, and why we are going with new models? See, all these models comes again SDLC, but approach is little bit different. Now let us start waterfall model. Okay, so what is waterfall model? Let us understand. See, this is also one of the model which comes under SDLC. And whatever the phases we have seen in SDLC, the same phases will be there, but approach will be different. So again, the waterfall model start with requirement analysis. Okay. So requirement analysis, again, we collect the requirement from the client and we will prepare certain documents. So here the main important is a documentation. So documents in the sense each and every activity we will document, and in this model documentation will play very important role. So the first phase of requirement analysis, we will talk to the client. It means normally business people like project manager, product management, these people involved in the communication between customers and companies. So they will collect the requirement from the customer. And once we get the requirements, they will prepare some document. So that is called software requirement specification documents. Okay. So in that document, every requirement they will document which is taken from the client. So once the document is created, then the system design will start. So what is system design means? So whatever the documents we prepared, okay, during requirement analysis, based on that documents, the designers will be there. The designers again, the different team. So those people will design the software and they will prepare HLD and LLD documents. Basically, they will divide the entire requirement into HLD, into LLD modules, like small pieces of a software, and finally integrate them. So the second phase is design phase. Okay. So I am this, see, for example, in this phase, what happened? Based on the requirement document, the designers will prepare the design documents. Once the design phase is completed, then the developers will develop or implement. Okay, here implementation. Implement the software based on the design documents. Here, what are the documents? They will prepare design documents. And based on that, the developers or implement the software based on the design documents. So because as a developer, if we develop a software, I need some input, right? from where I get the input. So based on the design, I have to develop the software. So the next phase is implementation or coding phase. Okay, this is also coding phase or implementation phase. So based on the design documents, the coding will start. So after completion of implementation or development, now the testing phase will start. In this phase, what you will do, the tester is going to test the software after completion of document. And once the testing is completed, we will put the software in the customer environment. Okay, deploy is nothing but we will install the software in the customer environment and then they start using the software. So that is a maintenance phase. Okay, here the last phase is maintenance phase. So this is all about waterfall model. Now, if I look at that waterfall model picture, okay, so understand the behavior of the risk. Suppose here every phase, if you want to start a design, suppose the designer's team, okay, is there and they want to start a design. What is the input for them? So requirement analysis, this is the first phase, right? So what are the documents we required? Here, SRS, software requirement specification document, which is prepared in the first phase. So it will be the input to the next phase. Okay, here, the next phase, this SRS document is the input for next phase. Okay, so each and every phase needs some input, right, and produce some output. For example, when I take requirement analysis phase, what is the input for this? Customer requirement, right? And what is the output of this phase? Requirement specification document. And requirement specification document will be the input for system design. And what is the outcome of system design? Design documents. Okay. So based on this design documents, it will be the input for the implementation. Okay. And what is the outcome of implementation phase? Code. Code is the output. So developers will input the will implement the code or software, and once the outcome is software, and once deliver the software, so and testing phase will start. So what is the input for testing? The software itself. Once the developer provided the software for the testing team, testing will conduct. And after completion of testing, what is the outcome? Test cases, test plan, test results. These are the outcome of testing phase. So these are the documents we have to prepare as a tester, and the deployment will happen in the deployment phase. So we will prepare some documents like installation document, functional flows, and so on, and how the software will work using manual. So these things provided to the customer. So based on that the customer will using the software. So each and every phase is having certain input and it gives some outcome. That is the first point. And second point is, suppose if I want to start a design, until unless the requirement analysis completed, right? I can't start the design. What is that meaning? Every phase depends on the previous phase of the model. For example, designing depends on the requirement. Okay. And next, testing depends on the implementation. Deployment depends on the testing. So each phase is depends on the previous phase. So until unless we completed this phase, we cannot go to the next phase. So this is the behavior of the waterfall model. So this is very old and traditional model where the companies were following in olden days. But now what is the advantages and disadvantages? So many models came in the market, but why we move to the another model, that we need to understand. So what is the advantage and disadvantages that we will discuss now? Let me show one document. So these are the explanation of these SDLC phases. Please refer this document. And this is waterfall model. The advantages of waterfall model. So what is the first point? Quality of the product will be good. So what is the meaning of quality of the product will be good? So because in the waterfall model, normally this waterfall model prepared for long-term projects. Okay. So why the quality of the product will be good? Because every phase we have a detailed documentation. So whatever the activity we do, we will document it so that we will be very clear for the people who are involved in the design phase. So development phase and testing phase, whatever. So finally, we will reach to the quality product. And what is the second point? What is the second advantage? Since the requirement changes are not allowed, chances of finding bugs will be less. See, one more important, guys. Suppose we got some requirement from the client and we have started design, coding, and somewhere in this particular phases, but again, the client come back, okay, and ask us to change something and to change some requirement. So that is not possible in the waterfall model. So frequently changing the requirement, we cannot accommodate in the waterfall model. And this is a fixed model. Okay. Once you completed the requirement analysis, then design, then coding, then testing and deployment. So it's go on like this. We cannot allow the new requirements. We cannot change the requirements in the middle of this phase because everything will be freeze. Everything will be clear cut documentation. So the new requirement we cannot accept it in this model. So because of that reason, chances of finding bugs very less. And if we keep on changing the requirement or designing or coding, definitely chances to get number of bugs. But here everything will be clear. So the documentation will be clear and we are not allowing the new requirements in the middle of the process. So there are less chances of bugs to find in this waterfall model. So that is another advantage. So what is the second point of advantage? Since the requirement changes are not allowed, chances of finding bugs will be less. Okay. Is it clear? Any doubts?
No doubts.
Sorry, guys.
Yes, got it.
Your voice.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And what is the third point? Initial investment is less since the testers are hired at the later stages. Okay. So what is that meaning? Initial investment is less since the testers are hired at the later stages. If I look at that waterfall model image, okay, so every phase will have different teams, like requirement analysis, have a different team. Designers will be different team. Coding, development will be different team. So testing is a different team. And at the initial stage of software development process, we don't need all the team members, right? So initial stage, we just need only business people here, okay? Or like product manager or project manager, then the designers will need. After completion of this phase, the programmers or the developers are needed. And then testers we can recruit. Until unless we completed these phases, we don't need testers, right? So the investment is very less. That's the point we need to discuss here. Initial investment is less because we don't need to hire the people in the beginning stages. So whatever we need those people, and whenever we need those people, we can recruit them and we can hire them. So that is the reason. Okay, that is the meaning of that third point. Initial investment is less since the testers are hired at the later stages. And fourth point, preferred for small project when requirement is freeze. So especially this model preferred for small project where the requirements are freeze. Because every phase we have a static documentation and every phase documents will be freeze. We cannot modify the documents again. We cannot go back and modify the documents. So if there is any requirement which are very static, static means what? Static dynamic means keep on changing. But static means it's fixed, which are not dynamically requirement, which are not changing frequently. In those cases, we can go and prepare this model. Okay. These are the few advantages of waterfall model. Um, Everything is clear? Did you understand what is the meaning of these points?
Clear. It's clear.
Yeah. So next we'll see what is the disadvantages of waterfall model. So first point, see, because based on the drawbacks, the new models coming into the market. So every model they're having one disadvantage, and then people are using different type of models. So even waterfall model also having drawbacks. Now we will see what are the drawbacks of waterfall model. And the first point is requirement changes are not allowed. Suppose the client given some initial requirement here. We started design and implementation, and we are implemented and in testing phase. Okay. So at that time, again, client came back and asked us to changes some requirement or ask us to implement some new requirement. So that kind of requirement we cannot accommodate in the middle of the process, and we cannot accommodate the frequent changes requirements. So we cannot accommodate in your software development process. So this is one of the disadvantages of waterfall model. So requirement changes are not allowed. So because this is fixed model, once the phase is completed, once we move on next phase, we cannot go back to previous phases. Okay. So the requirement changes are not allowed in the middle of the development process. And second point is if there is a defect in requirement that will be continued in the later phase. This is very important point. You have to please attend to on my words. So what is that meaning? Suppose in the requirement analysis phase, we have collected some requirement. Suppose if there is any problem or mistake in the requirement, that will be continued in the next phases. Because based on the requirement document, the design will happen, right? And the same mistake will be continued in the next phase. If the design is wrong, the coding also will be wrong. And if the code is wrong, then testing will be wrong. And we cannot find those bugs. And if we miss the bug again, that bug will come under maintenance. Again, that bug will face by the customer. So if there is any mistake in one phase, that will be continued in the next phases. Okay, that is one of the drawback. And the next point is clear everything.
It's clear.
Yeah. And the next point is sometimes total investment is more because time taking for rework on defect is time consuming, which leads to high investment. So what is that meaning? So total investment is more. Why? Because if you find any bugs in the middle of the phase, like suppose in the testing phase, okay, in the testing phase, we found some defects. And when I found the defects in the testing phase, what we have to do? We have to correct, right? We have to correct that defect in the coding level. And again, the same defect we have to correct in the design level. And again, correct in the requirement level. Did you understand? In the testing phase, we found some defects. And when I found in the testing phase, we have to correct the, I'll show you the design picture of that. Okay. So what happened actually? I found the defects, right, in the testing phase. And what we have to do? We have to correct the defect in the coding phase. Okay. And again, the same defect we have to correct in the design. And again, correct in the requirement level. So if you find any defect, any of these phases, we have to go back to previous phase and we need to modify the documents accordingly. So that is again more cost. That the total investment is more. If we want to do rework and we have to invest a lot, that will cause a rework, right? If we find any defects in some phase, we need to change. Suppose in the testing phase found some defects accordingly, we have to change the code. developer should work on that, right? If you want to change the coding, developer should work on that. And that is again rework. And again, the designers will change the documents accordingly.